farmer panel on technology. My name is Dennis Lange. I'm the provincial pulse and soybean specialist with Manitoba Agriculture. And I've invited some speakers, some farmers from different regions of Manitoba. We have Fiona Jochum from St. Francis Xavier. We have Reid Mazinke from Morris, and we have Tyler Menold from Carman. So the way the panel is going to go here today is I'm going to be posing a series of questions to the panelists, and they'll be answering their questions based on their farm experience. We have Ann Kirk here in the audience as well, and she has a microphone with her. So as we go, if you have a question as we go, we'll just kind of raise your hand, and Ann will come over to you, and we can maybe, if we're asking a question or if you want somebody to expand on an answer, we'll deal with that question as we go. So starting off, Mr. Mazinke, Reid Mazinke from Morris, Manitoba. Maybe stand up and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your farm.
Hey, I'm Reid Mazinke. I'm from Morris, Manitoba. I farm with my dad and brothers. So we're a little southwest of Morris. Our land base is kind of 14 Highway to 23, if you know where that is. And we primarily grow wheat, oats, canola, soybeans, and occasionally some sunflowers if we feel like the time's right.
Next, we have Tyler Menold from Carman.
Hey, I'm Tyler Menold. We're from south of Carman, Manitoba. I farm with my dad and brother and all of our families. We grow about 8 crops a year. Keeps it challenging for us, but always looking for new markets. Niche markets seem to be the good money makers. So play around with different things, get burned on some things, having lots of fun. So thank you.
And next we have Fiona Jochum.
I'm Fiona Jochum, and I'm a third-generation farmer on the family farm in St. Francis Xavier, which is just west of Winnipeg. We're a grain farm. We grow wheat, oats, canola, and soybeans, so very similar to Reid's farm. And I work with my parents, my aunt and uncle, and their 2 daughters. Yeah. And I went to school here at the U of M, so it's nice to be back.
So while Fiona is still standing, we're going to maybe start off here. Maybe describe yourself as far as, are you an early adopter of technology, middle of the road, or a newbie to technology? And maybe expand a little bit about some of the things you worked with.
So I had a hard time trying to define myself in this, but I'd say it kind of depends on the technology, maybe a little bit of a cross between an early adopter and more towards early majority, I guess. And I say that just because I am a little bit risk averse. And so it's just trying to balance that of being able to take advantage of a new technology that could increase your profits or make your farm more efficient, but then also balance the risk of the costs associated with being an early adopter, because usually it's the early adopters that are doing that work to kind of figure out how this technology works and doing a lot of that trial and error for the companies. So, yeah.
Same question for Tyler.
Yeah, I'm probably a little more middle of the road. We usually buy used equipment and then run it for 5 to 10 years or even longer. I like new technology, but I like to make sure it's proven first. It's a big thing on our farm is a shortage of labor. Is this new technology going to save me time, and is it easy to use, or halfway through the season am I going to want to throw it out the cab? So yeah, there's some things that are really beneficial. Most of them are pretty simple, just bigger equipment, straw management, and bigger equipment with less drivers.
And Reid?
Yeah, I'd say probably early to middle of the road. Again, it depends. You have some technology that comes out that you think it's really applicable for your farm and you think it's going to be a good fit, or some that's, I don't know if it quite has a fit. But yet again, yeah, cost always comes into play. And is it going to be more efficient? Are you going to, decrease your manpower by doing that? So it all depends on the scenario.
So while you're still standing, you'll get the routine as we go back and forth. Maybe describe some of the various technologies that you've used on your farm, everything from seeding all the way through to harvest and weed management. Maybe talk about some of those factors.
Yeah, seeding wise, I mean, we're using GPS on basically everything, RTK and seeding. So we use a disc drill and planter for seeding. So, sectional control will be used, and we through JD Operations Center, that's kind of where we put a lot of our data into. So that makes a elevation map that we use for the fall so we can be more efficient scraping. Then moving into spraying, we're going to try out a John Deere See and Spray next year. That's black on green, so it shuts off when there's no weeds present. So that'll be interesting to see if we can maybe save a little bit of money on chemical, or potentially have a add another active in the tank to make sure we get a good kill on those weeds. And then moving into harvest, just simple yield data on the monitor there. And then moving into fertility, I think we're just basically doing a lot of anhydrous ammonia for our nitrogen. And one thing we've been finding is sometimes if you don't quite finish on time, or if the deadline hits, or if it's too wet and we don't quite finish a field, we've been making prescriptions for next year for the sprayer to go over with liquid fertilizer, so that we're not over applying or missing an area, just to make sure things are done as good as they can be.
So one of the follow-up questions I have for you as well.
Yeah.
So what brought your decision on to go to the new spray system? What was some of the factors that you looked at when you were, because that for some people, that's a pretty big step, right?
Yeah, like obviously cost, supposed to be able to recoup the cost over a certain amount of years. So it kind of made sense. It's obviously a bit of a risk, but we work with Enns Brothers and Morris on kind of rolling some equipment. So they were kind of wanting us to do that. So we took the leap, and hopefully next year we get a good bang for our buck. And, we use that technology quite a bit, and it is a good fit on the farm.
Good. So Tyler, I guess the question to you is, describe your various technologies that you use in your farm, everything from seeding through harvest.
So something that's a little bit unique to our farm is we bought a big air cart for behind our disc drill. We got 4 tanks on it. So one will have seed, one will have phos, and the others will have potassium and sulfur. We have liquid nitrogen pulled behind us. So we're putting all our fertilizer down at spring with the seed or in the midrow. Having all our products separate like that, it enables us to move from field to field quickly without recalibrating for every blend. Having 8 different crops, that's a big benefit. Also, having various soil types. We farm out in Graysville on potato land and down into Red River Valley clay and basically everything in between. So we have lots of different needs on our soils for blends. Saving the time from recalibrating really helps. We still run a pull type sprayer, but I challenge some of you. I don't want to downgrade to the biggest self-propelled sprayer out there. We have 2,400 gallons, 130 feet. Yes, there are wider ones, but you're carrying less water. Water's cheap. It's a great way to slow down resistance. We're going high water volumes. We're spraying just as much in a day as a guy with a big self-propelled. Moving on, we're trying to do more minimum till, saves time. It seems to be like we're in a dry cycle. We have the equipment to be able to manage straw and seed directly into the soil now. We're also seeing big yield bumps compared to where we till our fields. So going into the minimum till system seems to be a big benefit for our farm. So we'd like to move from the double disc drill to the single disc drill in the future to have even less soil disturbance, as little as possible. Yeah, that's about it.
And Fiona, I guess we'll go with her. Describe some of the various technologies on your farm, all the way from seeding through harvest.
Okay, so this year we upgraded our seeder, which was a long-awaited, exciting thing that we got to do. And the best thing about our new drill is it's got the newest MRB ID, I guess is what they're called, from Bordeaux. And so we are able to set the depth of our nitrogen fertilizer a lot more accurately and can get it deeper into the ground without disturbing the seed bed, because the midrobanders are on the front of the disc drill. So wherever they're going, they could potentially affect the seed bed of the seed row that's coming on behind it. And so anyway, that honestly, that was probably the best part of that drill. Some other good parts of that drill is that they have scales on the air tank, which lets us more accurately track the inputs that we're putting down and just reconfirm that we are putting down the accurate rates. And because of our farm setup, it also helps us track all the inputs we're using. So yes, that was seeding. We also use Climate Field View to track all of our activities across the farm, which is very handy throughout the growing season when scouting, just to be able to quickly pull out your phone and see what's been going on in that field. We've got kind of different teams on the farm that are in charge of different aspects. My dad and I are in charge of seeding. My cousins and another employee are in charge of spraying. So maybe they don't remember the seeding order, or maybe I don't remember when they sprayed which field. And so just being able to have the app there to check things out or to remember a date really speeds up the process. And I think one of the presenters even talked about that this morning. You can skip the step of having to call someone and ask, because you have that, everybody has that information. Then at harvest, we have CMOS automatic in our Claas combines, which allows the combines to automatically adjust the threshing, separation, cleaning while we're harvesting. And that has really helped on our farm, just to ensure that we are choosing the correct combine settings and harvesting as efficiently as possible. It's also really good for new employees, if we're trying to get someone up to speed on combine operation. Maybe they don't have 40 years of combining experience, and the CMOS automatic really helps speed up the training process and getting them to understand how to operate the combine and ensure they're doing a good job. So that's another technology that we've adopted. Yeah, I feel like I could go on, but there's other things.
So I do have a follow-up question to this. One of the questions I get from farmers when they're looking at buying a new piece of equipment, especially seeding equipment, is they're like, wow, we want to upgrade our seeding equipment because we want to get a better seeding rate. We want to get a more accurate seeding rate. The first question I usually ask them is, okay, what's your current seeding rate? What's your current mortality? Have you assessed that on your own farm with your, like, say, for example, for soybeans, are you getting lower rates of mortality with that seed, or is it still too early to tell?
I am working on assessing that. And so I did a lot of work on that in the spring, because I was the main seeder operator. And so we had two things that affected our seeding this year. We decided to adjust some of our cereal seeding rates to a bit of a lower rate as recommended by our seed grower. And we are moving to seeding based on the 1,000 kernel weight, not just putting out 2 bushel per acre for wheat or 3 bushel an acre for oats. So we adjusted our seeding rates, and also doing a similar thing on canola, lowering our canola seeding rates, because we have been getting really good emergence. Again, depends on the conditions. We find overcrowded canola doesn't do well. And then on soybeans, we switched from seeding on 20-inch spacing to just seeding on 10-inch spacing, but we didn't adjust our soybean seeding rate. So as you can imagine, all these situations, there is going to be a different looking field in the spring than what you're used to. Plus, we had a new seeder. So as the crop was coming up this spring, guess who was getting a lot of phone calls? And so people are thinking, oh man, Fiona did not do a good job of seeding. So I went out there with my tape measure and spent a lot of hours doing seed counts and checking out our emergence. And we did have very good emergence, 90%. So it looked different, but doing those counts is important because then you know, okay, this is what we did. This is what it looked like. Then you can kind of assess, okay, do we need to do something different next year? And did we like the rates that we used and how it turned out? So it takes a lot of time. New tech, a drone that can just fly across, take a picture and tell me how many plants are coming up, because doing all those counts was very time consuming when there were lots of other jobs that needed to be done. But
Cool. That's the answer I wanted to hear, because I usually hear the comment, well, yeah, well, you know, it does look better, but most people will don't take the time to verify what the equipment is doing, right? And I think that's a really important factor to consider. So with that, I'm going to move back over to Tyler for the next question here. It seems like we're seeing new technologies being introduced all the time. How do you assess this new technology and to see if it's right for your farm?
I touched on this a bit earlier. It's got to be easy to use or understand how to use it. We got to see value in it. Cost is a big one. And how is it going to pay? Is it going to get us more bushels? Is it going to get us better quality or save us time? So we've tried a few different ones. We were pretty disappointed in Climate Field View. Our equipment was just too old and not John Deere enough. It seems like a great idea, but it just doesn't work on with our equipment right now. The satellite imagery was great. That's where I think AI could improve that, rather than me looking at satellite imagery maps and trying to figure out, okay, yeah, I went to this spot of the field and that was the problem I was seeing, and now I see that on the map. If I can get alert to my phone saying, hey, we see this problem in this field in this spot, and we've seen that problem before, go check it out. That would be more valuable than me spending a lot of time looking at the maps and trying to spend a lot of time during the busy growing season figuring out what does that mean and going to check the field. I quit using them and I just go check the field now. AI is cool, but I think it has a long way to go. I don't know if that's in our lifetime, but we'll see where it goes. On the other hand, there's guys selling cleaning equipment to clean cereal seed, soybean seed, whatever, and they're saying AI is changing settings on the machines already. So that's a pretty valuable benefit. As your bin's running empty, the lot is changing, there will be more pods or whatever, and it will make adjustments accordingly, and you'll have a better product in the end.
Cool. We'll have Reid come up next and maybe answer the same question. Are there any technologies that, you know, how do you assess those new technology when they come out, whether they're right for your farm?
Yeah, I think on our farm, we always want to try and, if you know, you can't test everything before you make the purchase, but we always want to try and, you know, do as much research on the topic, or whether it's, you know, technology, piece of machinery, variety, whatever it may be. But just do as much research into that, and, you know, talk to people who maybe have used it. But we really want to get it on farm and test it out, whether it's, you know, variety, put a couple of strips in the field, or split a quarter section or something, do 80 acres and 80 acres, or machinery, you know, we want to put it head to head with something. Like, we just want to really make sure that it's a proper fit for our farm before we make that decision.
So just while you're still up, have you run into any connectivity issues, I guess, over the years, especially being from the Morris area, and sometimes we have some issues around Morris?
Yeah, we're not too bad. Like, we're pretty lucky. Like, you know, GPS signal, it's always really good. You know, if we got a hotspot, Wi-Fi to a tablet or laptop or something, you know, that always seems to work good. We don't really have a lot of issues there. We're lucky we run a lot of John Deere equipment. So, I mean, that's pretty compatible when you're hooking up to the same thing, you know, to have, you know, something not talking to each other. So that's definitely a big bonus there. So we're lucky where we don't have a lot of problems.
And same question to Tyler.
Connectivity, we put two-way radios in every cab again. Yeah. Some fields have cell phone service. It works. We have Starlink on our farm. We start putting, I don't know what they're called. They're routers all over the yard, or antennas. The techie guys know what I'm talking about, but they work pretty good. I would like to see it across the whole farm, at least the main yard. Because yeah, when you walk 10 feet away from the shed and you lose it again, that kind of pissing me off. But
And you have no rattlesnakes or rattlesnakes or antelope in your area, as was commented this morning, right?
that's right. No, the deadliest thing on our yard is a chicken, so I'm pretty safe.
So same question for Fiona.
Yeah, despite the fact that we're so close to Winnipeg, we do run into connectivity issues with cell phones, and on the farms, we now have the farm yards. We are connected to fiber optics, which helps a lot of things in the office, but that doesn't really help out in the field. An interesting connectivity issue that we ran into was we upgraded our grain cart a few years ago, and it came with a tablet. There's different companies that kind of do the same thing. But anyway, a tablet that's wireless that communicates to the cart to tell you the weight on the cart. And anyone who has the app can access that. So as a trucker, I could see what was on the cart, see what had been unloaded, and it's all, every load is tracked from a field to the truck to the bin, so you can really see where everything is. And the combine operator can see it. So if they at any time want to do a yield monitor calibration or whatever, they can tear the cart from the combine cab and get and see and unload all. Anyway, so that's the product. Great idea, worked excellent in the first year that we got it. It was so cool that anyone could connect to the screen and see what was going on the grain cart. Everyone had access to that information. Then in year 2, we upgraded our tractor that was pulling the grain cart. And that tractor, as lots of new machinery does, emits its own Wi-Fi signal or something like that, because it sends diagnostic from that tractor to the dealership and to the company, and it's always communicating. And unbeknownst to us, that signal interfered with our grain cart signal that it was sending off. So now all of a sudden, we were having major issues connecting our tablet to the grain cart, and that was an issue that took over a year to resolve, and it was a very painful harvest. But I think we've got it done. So yeah, new tech is great, but definitely run into roadblocks all along the way.
One of the comments you mentioned about the combine that it sets itself, if you want to call it that, but it sets on the go. Does it adjust for changing harvest conditions? Like does it adjust your sieves differently than, or is it always constant going up and down the field?
So it does adjust for changing harvest conditions, but you kind of have to help it along. If you're noticing that the harvest conditions are changing, you input that into the computer and it will adjust. To some extent, it does adjust on its own. And the way it does that is periodically it will change settings just to kind of reconfirm that it is still operating the correct way. So yeah, it's not foolproof, but it's a tool that we use, and we don't use it blindly. Yeah. Let's say you still have to, you still have to have an understanding of how the combine works, so you can use it to its full extent.
So with respect to technology, what are some of the quick wins that you've seen over the years with technology? Simple things that have made your farm more productive.
Quick win, RTK auto sear is good. Straight cut canola, tried it for, well, actually, we straight cut a regular canola variety before pod shatter resistant was out, like the year before, and then the next year we had pod shatter resistant canola. Worked so well, we sold our swather immediately. That was a quick win.
Tyler?
So us, it's again, middle of the pack kind of thing, or maybe we're end of the pack here. We switched to continuous drying this year, and just being able to continually put heat on our corn, we were able to dry in maybe half the time of what we used to be able to do. So just having more bins set up that could do the cooling instead of cooling in the dryer, that seemed to help. Some other things, RTK ditching, just having ditches that work. I could not imagine needing to use a laser to make ditches. I would dig holes in every field we have and they would never drain again. I have enough trouble with RTK ditching, so I like that the screen turns red when it says, no, you can't do that. So yeah, simple things like that.
Same question for Reid.
Yeah, straight cutting canola has been a big difference on our farm. We don't swath any of it anymore. So that, I don't know, we did that, I don't know how many years ago now, but yeah, we've never turned back from that. It's been a great decision. Another quick win, we started throwing pans behind combines with the Bushel Plus app. I'm sure some of you guys are familiar with that, but it's just so reassuring knowing what you're throwing out. You know, the monitor changes. Oh, is it just conditions? What is it? Well, just throw a pan. You get a actual number and you know what you're throwing out. So that's been a nice quick win for us.
So while you're still up, so with respect to grain storage on your farm, what are some of the techs that you use to monitor your grain?
We have basically all our bins are 60,000 bushel bins, and we have temperature sensors in there. So we haven't had any issues with that. I mean, we try and fan it in the fall, fan it in the spring, and then, take a little bit out, September, October, November, December, take a little bit of that top off, and that seems to have worked very well.
Question over to Tyler.
Yeah, we have temperature cables in all our bins that are over 3,000 bushels. The ones that are smaller, we have this fancy thing. It's about this tall. It's got holes in it. It's called probe. So we climb up the ladder, and as long as the grain is to the top, otherwise you got to take another ladder with you, get down the bin, probe it, scoop the snow out. Yeah, so it's a lot of monkeying around in some of those bins, but no, all the new bins, they you can buy them with ladders on the inside now. So that's great new technology that we have access to. Thank you, Meridian.
So Fiona.
The most important technology for us when it comes to grain handling is actually our grain cart that has scales on it. And now that we have the app working correctly, it makes for monitoring the product that we take off so much easier, and accurate tracking of grain is probably, I would argue, the most important thing when it comes to making money on the farm.
So what are some of the technologies that you thought would be a good idea, but left you disappointed over the years?
It took us we were trying to find, and I guess we haven't found the full silver bullet, but we're trying to find a way to track and manage our data. And so we tried a few different softwares, and they did not all work well. I will say one thing that makes a product more more palatable is having a free trial period or a low cost trial period, so you can see if it's going to work for you first before you get in. But yeah, we had some other products that we tried that we're kind of locked into, and big regrets because they didn't work for our farm. But that's just what happens.
Tyler, same question.
Yeah, I'm going to steal Fiona as we were talking about it at lunch. Biologicals, tried a few, and it was just a big waste of time so far. So now it's on to the biological companies. They need to do some work and show us the data that it pays before we try that on our farm again. Climate field view again. I guess more disappointed in ourselves for not buying John Deere maybe, but yeah.
So what color do you run on the farm?
It's a big rainbow. We got red and yellow and blue and different colors of yellow too.
Same question for Reid.
I'd say we have had scales on our grain carts, but mice keep chewing wires. So then you got to change load cells or wiring, and that seems to be a pain. It's really nice when the scale works, but it sucks when it doesn't. But I'd say maybe in hydrosing, sometimes when that monitor doesn't, you know, it's not actually saying the right rate. That is really annoying when you finish a tank and you're like, oh my goodness, I only put on like 80 pounds or something. So that's pretty annoying.
So over the years, how do you track your field records, spray records, yield, and how potentially do you use that going forward?
Yeah, my father loves Excel. He's tracked so many things on there. So we got like, all our rotations dating way back, field notes, sprayer notes, what our fertility was on that field, how many years ago. And then sprayer wise, I mean, we're always making notes when we enter a new field. So, whether that's, wind conditions, where it's blowing from, what are you spraying, what's the rate, gallons an acre. So just we can go back and, if we do have an issue, we can just go like, oh, okay, tank number 10 there, something went wrong. What did we spray 3 tanks before that or something like that. So just having a bunch of information readily available. So if there is something that pops up, maybe you can figure it out. But for rotation wise, I mean, it's looking at what we've done in the past and, how we had problem weeds there. We're not going to grow oats if there's a big wild oat patch or something like that, or disease pressure on this one field. So we're just kind of looking at our prior notes and what's happened in the past to kind of pick our rotation for the future.
Same question for Tyler.
Well, I'm glad Reid's dad likes using Excel because there's a senior member on our farm. I won't name any names because some of you guys know him. He does not like using, or at least putting down his notes into our notes. So we often have to remind him to write it down or text us at least, and then we'll put it into Google Sheets. We used to do Dropbox, but then if we didn't save and close out the version we were using, you'd have 10 different multiples of that same file. So yeah, Google Sheets was great change for us. Hoping we never get hacked. I don't know how that all works because it'd be a bad day if that ever happened. Hopefully Google has good security. I'm not sure. They're kind of a small company.
And Fiona?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, we are using Climate Field View. It's not a silver bullet, but it's the program that's been working the best for us so far. So that tracks all our data. And then we also track a lot of data just on Excel. That's kind of like the double check for us, and a program that everybody on the farm uses. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. And it's nice to look back on the history. I was talking to someone at lunch about this. It's really nice to track your own farm data. And I'm kind of the believer that step one is to learn from yourself and find trends in your own data. And yeah, it would be nice to see what all the neighbors are doing too and be able to benchmark with them. But and we're just trying for now to focus on ourselves, track our own data and compete against ourselves and always do better. So yeah, we use Excel and Climate Field View for that.
So one of the last few questions we have, do you run any on-farm testing? And what type of projects have you done if you've done any on-farm testing?
We do some on-farm testing work with our local ag retail. So we put in a soybean trial, and then we'll test different products that we're interested in or ones that they're interested in if they are able to convince us to test them. And Climate Field View is actually really handy for that. It does work for our equipment, and so then it tracks where different varieties or different spray applications are going. And then at the end of the year, when we layer on our yield map, it's really nice, easy to make a comparison there. And then even it also has the NDVI map, so you can, and field history, and it's all in one app. So it makes it easier to compare all that data that we're collecting. But we do take it with a grain of salt because it is just on-farm data. We don't have the same scientific procedures that maybe a research company is using. So, yeah.
And Tyler?
In the past, we've done work with the commodity groups. I really like their on-farm network stuff they do. It takes a lot of work because they have proper methods, and I believe all the work they've done. If you just want to see their results, it's all online as well. You can go back different years and see different crop, like go to a specific crop type or fertilizer usage or seeding rate or whatever you want to look up. Being that it is a lot of work, we're trying to cut back a little bit. So now we're just trying to please a coffee shop crowd, and we just have a scale on our grain cart and we'll spray a strip here and not replicate it. And oh, it worked. Great. Yeah.
You do know with those trials, you shouldn't put them right by the main road in case they don't work, right?
Yeah. Funny. Yeah. Yeah.
And Reid, the same question.
Yeah, we usually try and do a little bit of testing on our farm, whether it's, with chem companies, doing canola variety tests so we can kind of get a insight on, maybe what's a good new variety, or maybe we should just stick with the ones we've been growing. We've done some work with Tone Ag, whether it's, seeding rate trials or fertility, or, we've done maybe not so much in the past couple of years, but we have done some fungicide trials just with us, just our farm on the sprayer, because it's all on JD Operations Centers, then just take some yields afterwards and get a good indication of what things are doing. But yeah, it's always nice to know if you're doing the right thing, or if you should change it up a little bit. So we try and do a little bit every year.
So what's on your wish list for technology in the future? What would you really like to see that would make your farm more efficient?
I'd say I know there's a couple of companies with some, I think, starting out on some stuff like this, but I think timing for canola fungicide application, that would be nice. It's kind of hard to absolutely trudge through a canola field. So, whether that be a drone or satellite imagery or something, if you'd have a good, disease pressure spectrum for when you should spray, that would probably be helpful. And, obviously you still got to go check the field and for timing, but, maybe just another tool in a toolbox to have.
And Tyler?
Yeah, we touched on a few of them already. Better satellite imagery. Also, some simple ones like let's get bigger equipment. We got 60-foot combine headers. Combines need to catch up. We need to be spreading straw and chaff 60 feet now, not just 40 or 30. Bigger sprayers. Let's get over 200 feet. Let's get bigger tanks. Let's spray more in a day. Drones for spraying. I think there's too much red tape around it, and we should just kill that idea. It's probably never going to happen here. Let's put our thoughts in towards going bigger and doing a good job like we do.
And Fiona?
There are a lot of things on my wish list. I guess one thing that came to mind to me today, which I'm hoping someone will be like, oh, there is something for that, Fiona. I just want a better data analysis tool. I have all this on-farm data. I want something to be able to aggregate it and then show me this is what's been happening. So it's easier to compare year to year what's been going on the farm and why, instead of me having to sort through all of that data in the winter when I'm going to make a decision. It'd be nice if I could just type in somewhere and say, how many times have I top dressed in the past 5 years or 10 years, and did it pay off, and all this stuff. That's just a simple example, but just better data analysis. That's what I want. And yield prediction as well. Weather stations, soil probes. I think we're getting there. We're getting close, but yield prediction would be also helpful.
One of the last questions I have for you. How long do you think it'll take before we don't need agronomists in the field, that we can do everything virtually? Or will it happen?
That is too hard to put a number on, I think. I think I have to agree with some of the presenters this morning that I don't know if agronomists will ever be replaced, but I think artificial intelligence and technology, drones, that can definitely change the job that agronomists are doing, and help us work more efficiently. Or even, I think one of the things I hope technology can do for us is take some of the emotion or subjectiveness out of some of the decisions and help make things more objective. I think lots of times when mistakes are made, or when you look back, you just think, if I hadn't let my emotions drive that decision, maybe something else would have resulted. And I think technology could help us with that.
One of the comments that were made this morning is that some people do stuff because they've been doing it for so many years and they don't want to change because they're worried about it. So if you had a tool that would help you eliminate some of that risk, that would be a great thing. So, and turn it over to Tyler.
Yeah, that was a good point. Taking the emotion out of it. There's days where you're just making countless decisions throughout the day, and by the end of the day, you just get sick of it, and you just revert to the old ways, or just do what you're feeling in the moment is right, and that's not always the right thing. So figure out a way to take the emotions out of it for us, and you can make a lot of money on that. Yeah, I don't know. What was the question again? Sorry.
The question is, do you think agronomists will ever be replaced?
Never.
There you go.
In
We all have a
some
job. We all have a job
capacity,
out there now. So
in some capacity, someone will always be needed. My wife showed me GPT, whatever. I thought, wow, cool. It's gonna write this whatever I needed to write for me. And then I read it. I'm like, wow, that's really stupid. I could have wrote that and done a better job. So, and then I thought, well, okay, well, this computer thought of that. So actually, like, this computer is only 2 years old, and that's actually pretty smart. Like, okay, maybe we're getting somewhere, maybe we're not. I don't know. I'm not technically inclined, as some of you might know, but yeah, we'll see where this goes.
and we'll finish where we started with Reid.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll ever be replaced. I mean, maybe the role will be slightly reduced. Like, just think about the technology John Deere's coming out with. It's really interesting. I mean, could you take that technology and put it into a drone that flies the field and maps every single weed in that field, and you get an algorithm that basically tells you, hey, this is what's in your chem shed. This is the best product you should use for the field right now. Like, but I mean, can it identify pests? Probably not, or disease. So I think maybe in the future could be a more limited role, but I think we're always going to need agronomists. And by the time that technology is available, and then by the time everyone adopts that technology, that's going to be a really long time. So we'll need agronomists for a while.
Well, thank you all for answering those questions, but we'll just open it up for any last questions from the audience here. Yes, we covered everything pretty good. So yeah, let's give this group a nice round of applause. Oh, we see one. Perfect.
All right, so that's loud. Tyler, this one's for your comment. All right, bud. So coming from a soil scientist, and we talk about getting bigger. So we've got 300, 400 horse 500 horse tractors. There's going to be 1,000 horse coming on the market soon. There's 700, 800 horse. Talking bigger and bigger and bigger. At what point does a farmer start thinking, I'm too big and I'm causing too much compaction?
Just put more tires on it.
Tracks.
Longer tracks.
Baby. It's all about the tracks.
Longer tracks. I don't know. Are we doing more compaction than we were 20 years ago? Like, if we're spreading out that weight over more tires and everything, maybe you could be onto something. Maybe we should just switch to controlled traffic farming. Maybe dealers should come up with the same width of implement for everything we use. That would be nice.
Oh, we have one last question here.
Okay, thank you. This question is directed to all of you. I mean, like, there's this move now about fixing your own tractors or equipment. Where are you guys standing?
Oh, yeah. So I guess you're talking about the right to repair. Yeah. Um, yeah, that I think there are some advancements there, but okay, so tech equipment is getting so high tech. It is there are lots of things that we cannot repair, which is a little bit annoying because there were several times this harvest where we're running newer equipment on our farm. And there were several times this harvest where a code comes up or something rather. And the way the equipment is set up, that if a code comes up, it shuts down for safety reasons. You can't move. And the only way to get it back up and running is to get a tech to come out, and they literally just plug in their computer and clear the code. Why can't I do that? Or it would be very helpful to save some time if farmers could have something that they could plug into the equipment to read the code, to figure out what's going on, so that they can then call the dealership and say, okay, this is my problem. I need these parts. Let's do it. Instead of having to pay for 2 trips for a tech to come out. The first trip for them to come out and diagnose, and then the second trip for them to come out and bring the parts, and then a third trip because they brought the wrong parts. And it all adds up. It all adds up. So yes, right to repair, very important. And there needs to be some work done. There are some things happening, like, there's like virtual things being introduced, which some farmers aren't don't like that idea. I think it could be kind of cool if you could call anyone at any time. I don't care if they're not at my local dealership. If I can get an answer from any person, I don't care who they are, I'm happy. Not everyone's okay with that, but I support that move. But yeah.